Hey there everyone, thanks for checking out this video. This is going to be my build guide for the Atlas. We're reviewing some of his abilities. Full disclaimer with this frame, I never really liked him when he first was released. I just hate all of his abilities. I found other frames that could do everything so much better. But since his rework, he's actually become a lot of fun to play with. Everything seems to flow and feel a lot better. So without further ado, I want to get started and we'll go from there. Okay guys, we're just doing a quick rundown of Atlas's abilities. If you want to view any of these abilities in greater detail, like how to maximize and things of that nature, I strongly suggest checking out the Warframe wiki. You can find all the information there about like how to basically maximize your builds just for certain abilities if you want to use them. I generally like to try and go for a mix of getting everything somewhat even. Some things kind of stand out more than others with Warframes, and I generally try and like to build towards those. So first of all, let's talk about Atlas's passive, which is the ability to become immune to knockdown effects while on the ground. It's quite useful for those missions where you just want to run towards an exit and you're just getting stuck by laser fences. If you just hit the ground just before you go through there, you can walk through. You will still take damage. That's not immunity from damage, it's just the knockdown effect itself. But it's quite useful for things of that nature. So going from that, let's talk about his first ability, Landslide. So Landslide is just pretty much a dashing punch to an enemy. It really comes into effect once you've actually used your ability 3 on them, which I'll talk about in a little while. But it basically causes them to drop rubble on the floor. Rubble is something that could just be used to heal Atlas or give him better armor if his health's at full. Quite useful tip with rubble is if you have like a sentinel with vacuum on it, you can actually pick up rubble from much further away, helping you keep that buff up. It's quite useful. I like to pair it with the sentinel as well if I'm using any weapons, or like carrier. That's quite good, or taxon is quite good as well. Worm's good if you just want a Warframe that will basically never die if you use the abilities from Cephalon Cephalon Samaris, but we'll get to that later. I might do a build on Sentinels as we grow and go through this thing. So the ability 2 is Tectonics. It basically creates a rock wall, which can be used for like blocking defenses or interception missions. It's quite good to put that in front of one of the consoles. You can actually use your ability 3 to petrify the wall, which makes it more fortified and just a lot harder for enemies to actually damage. You can basically use it again to have the wall collapse and turn into a ball that just rolls forward and smashes into enemies. It's quite useful, quite fun every so often just to use. The next ability we have is Petrify. So I find Petrify quite good as basically the setup to using ability 1. So what that ability 3 does, Petrify, it basically hardens Atlas's gaze to fossilize foes. Heals your rumblers, which are made by ability 4, which, in my opinion, are a bit underwhelming. I think they could be better, but it's just a random game AI, and sometimes it's not that great that controls them. But we'll talk about that in a second. So the basic combo is you petrify your enemies. They basically stand in place. If you shatter them with your ability 1, you can basically get them to drop rubble, which you can use to heal yourself. You can also use that to increase your armor, so it's a nice little 1-2 combo, or I guess 3-1 combo with this. You can also use Petrify on the walls, as I said before, to make them a little bit more sturdier if you're using them for interception missions. And that is going to be it for the main core abilities. Ability 4, as I said before, I think it's pretty underwhelming. You basically summon 2 elemental brawlers to melee. As you summon them, it actually does a quick little Petrify and a custom swimming around Atlas. You can also use Petrify to heal your rumblers as well. I really don't use ability 4 that often, to be perfectly honest. I've tried them out. I don't like the rumblers. But that's just personally my opinion. You might love them. So yeah, definitely play around with different builds. Focusing on those, maybe you can make them good. I haven't been able to. But yeah, that's it for the abilities, and now just talk about the actual build itself. Okay, so I've really only got 2 builds to show off. One is basically the build I call All for One. It's basically just trying to maximize your ability 1 as much as you can, while not totally ruining your other abilities. So it's mainly made for a cheap ability 3 and a really cheap ability 1. You just go in, you smash them, and that's about it. So we're just going to go through what we have here. I've also got an Umbral build, which I've been playing around with. It's very tanky. I like it a lot, but I'll get to that one in a second. So first of all, we have Steel Charge. This is very useful for increasing our melee damage from our melee weapon. Also, it's very good for increasing the damage for ability 1. Ability 1 scales of power strength, so we've got power drift in there to try and help with that. The knockdown resistance is it's not really a useful thing as we have immunity to it, but it will mainly have the ability strength. So we also got Transient Fortitude. Mine isn't fully ranked up. You can max yours. You may actually no, you've got enough capacity that you could max all these mods that I've got here. I haven't yet, just because I haven't needed to. That's the main reason why. But feel free to, if you already have them maxed, that's fine too. Right, so we've got our ability strength up, a bit of duration down. This build isn't really focused on duration. It's more of a quick petrify, bang, knock them dead. So we've got Prime Flow for plenty of energy resource, which is quite nice. I've got a maxed out Fleeting Expertise, just to save on the mod space. I didn't want to do a halfway Fleeting Expertise and then the Streamline, so I just went for this one. I've got Intensify for even more ability strength. I've got Hunter Adrenaline just to take some of that damage that I may get hit with, just to convert that into more energy for more spamming with ability 1. We've got the Augment for ability 1, Path of Statues, leaves a trail for 12 seconds, petrifies enemies for 6 seconds. That's also very good, just so I dash through some enemies, maybe I miss some will coming up behind me, this will petrify them so that I can just turn around and ability 1 again. And then we've got Steel Fiber to increase our armor value, and we've got Vitality as well. So from this one, I don't really care about my shields that much. It's more, I actually kind of want to get that health damage, which is why I've got Vitality in there for the Hunter Adrenaline. I've got Steel Fiber to buff my armor, and that's basically how this build works. You petrify, then you ability 1, and you kind of go from there. Both of these builds that I've got will use the same stat stick, so I'll go over what I've got that set up with in a bit. But that's it for the first ability, first build, I should say, and we'll go on to our Umbral build in just a second. Okay, well, here we are for our second build. This will be using the Umbral mods. It kind of follows the same-ish format, but this is more of a bit being all-rounded, so you can use your other abilities as well. It's very tanky. I like it a lot. I think I've been using this to play with Atlas more than anything, and it's just really good. So we've got Steel Charge again. We're mainly using this for the ability increase, but also the fact that it gives us 18 points to play with. I know right now it says that I've got 8 capacity to, that's free. That's purely because of I'll mess around with other builds with my config B, and I just put Forma into him. So I put 2 Forma in Atlas, and that is about it in terms of like why I've done the 2 Forma. Looking at these spaces I have, if I ever get around to maxing out the mods I have in here, it will probably I think that takes it to using the 8, 2, 4, 5. Yeah, I'll have that 1 point spare. I may try and form the extra slot, see if I can get something, but I'll deal with that the more I put points into this. But yeah, I digress. So we've got Steel Charge for the melee damage. We have Hunter Adrenaline again, just so that we can get some energy back when we take some hits. I've got Streamline to make abilities a bit cheaper. We've got Umbral Intensify. If you're not familiar with the Umbral mods, they come from the Sacrifice quest. They are currently the only mods that we have that we can't Forma for. So their costs is quite expensive at max, 16 here of Umbral Vitality, and there's just no way around it. The only Warframe right now is Umbral Excalibur, who can actually get around this by having those slots built in. So if you do want to mess around with this, like some of these Umbral builds, you'll probably see other people online with them. They are very costly, I'd kind of locked out by playing around with some other builds that just allowed me to have the space for this. So, yeah, Umbral Tense 5 for more ability strength. We have Umbral 5 with some armor. As you can see, I haven't really ranked mine, but the more I rank it, the more my armor value will increase, meaning I can take more hits. I've actually gone to using the Gladiator mods to sort of just add on to what the Umbral mods give me, which is mainly more armor and more health. We also got the set bonus of giving me the Blood Rush ability, pretty much, which is a 30% critical chance that's that combo multiplier. When we use ability 1, that also increases the combo multiplier, which makes that quite good. We've got Umbral Vitality for health, to give us lots to play with, to try and go with Hunter Adrenaline for just use of energy. We've got 225 energy, which is quite nice. It's not amazing by any stretch of means, but it's enough to get around and do what we need to. And then finally capping off with Prime Continuity for more duration. That will help with things like Petrify, and also our Rumblers if you decide to use them. And that will be it for the Umbral build. This is slowly becoming my favourite build to play with Atlas, because it's just great. The All for One build is very good for just spamming ability 1. When you want an all-rounded approach, this is probably the best build for that I've come up with so far. I might have more later on and I'll add those when I make them, but for now this has been the best I've been able to do. Yeah, so now we're going to talk about the stat stick, which will increase our ability 1. So, okie dokie then. So, now we will be dealing with our stat stick. So, with these stat sticks, they're just weapons that you just use for the mods to just tie on with your abilities. Which weapon it is doesn't matter. It's more about the mods that are on them that really help. A stance mod is always useful just for the extra points. The abilities that are used by the Warframes aren't used with that, so that's fine. So I've actually put Prime Reach on here just for when I will actually use it. So this is the jacket tag I'm using. I really like it. It's a rocket powered hammer. There's not much more I can really say about that. It's also really strong as well. So right now I've spec this out for corrosive and heat because I've mainly been using Atlas to fight the Grineer, and that's just really good for stripping armor and also just doing some after damage with the heat. So we've got Prime Reach for just range. We've got Prime Fury for a bit of attack speed. We have Prime Fever Strike for some toxin damage. We've got Shocking Touch for electricity damage to make our corrosive. I've actually put Primed Heavy Trauma on here just for a bit more impact damage, as that's what it does. The ability 1 also does impact damage, so it kind of stacks with that. We've got Collision Force for even more impact damage. And we've also got Molten Impact for a bit of heat damage. And we've got Prime Pressure Point for just overall melee damage. This is basically it. As I level these mods up, I'll probably add more Forma, but for right now, one Forma seems to be fine for that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I've had a lot of fun just running around with this, and I hope you do too. This will be that's pretty much everything I've got for the build at the moment. If you enjoyed it, please let me know. If you have any tweaks or anything like that you want to do instead, yeah, just let me know, and we can go from there. All right, thank you. Bye.